Hey everyone, Heather Williams here with the California AfterSchool Network for another Fireside Chat. As always, excited to co-host with Michael Funk from the California Department of Education Expanded Learning Division. And this is the second in our series of highlighting some of our Lights On Afterschool Expanded Learning Leadership Awards. So we were really excited a couple weeks ago on October 26th to celebrate the 24th annual Lights On Afterschool nationally. So all across the country, folks were celebrating after school. And then in California, one of the ways that we've done that in the last 10 years is to do a leadership awards for our field. And so just a quick note, we do say, expanded learning after school, what's the difference? So while nationally kind of after school is still the default language that's used in California, we've really wanted to build on that and reference what we think this field really does. And so we talk about expanded learning, which includes after school, also can include before school, summer intersession, any sort of non-school days, and also really reflecting that it's not about being a particular time or place right after school, but that we are talking about how we can expand horizons, expand learning for our students. They learn anywhere and from anyone. And so we want to take that opportunity and really provide an expansive opportunity for them, which is why our newest funding source is called the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program. So with that, this is, as I said, the second in our series where we are talking with our awardees. So during the celebration, we got to shower them with all the reasons why we think they are awesome and why they got selected as awardees for this year's awards. However, we would also like to hear from them and hear their stories and hear them talk about how they ended up where they are and some of the reasons why they're such amazing leaders in our field. So we'll start with just quick introductions and then we'll open it up to a conversation. So Marie, why don't we start with you? Just a quick.
Sure. Good afternoon, all. My name is Dr. Marie Pinto. I am the CEO for ProYouth.
Awesome. Michael?
Yeah, hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Michael Taylor. I am the ELOP coordinator in San Rafael City Schools.
Right.
Well, welcome. Do you prefer Michael?
We'll go with Mike, so it's not as confusing.
Or we could just go Funk and Taylor, but
Go on. That's like a band that we
sounds
haven't
like a rock
made up.
band. It sounds like
We
a
haven't
rock
done
band.
it.
I think we got. Let's break out in song here. Hey, Marie, I've known you for a long time.
Yes.
And have deep admiration and respect for the way you've led and seen your leadership and witnessed it in many settings. So it's a pleasure to have you here and not hard to imagine to understand why you were selected for this. And Mike, I've only interacted with you a couple times. Enjoyed both immensely and would look forward to getting to know you better and connecting. But it's clear to me that you embody the award that you just won. And we'd love to know a little bit about the arc of your journey. What was a catalyst to get you started down this path, and how does it matter to you? Marie, go ahead and start.
Sure, I'll start. So ProYouth is a nonprofit. Next year, 2024 will be our 30th year that we've been a nonprofit. So we have a long history in the community of tradition and support. So it actually started many years ago. My husband sat on the board for ProYouth. I was a volunteer. We worked with the founder to make sure that programs started well, systems were in place and things along those lines. So this year is actually our 25th year of actually doing actual program. And so I have a long history with the organization. And so, however, I always had other jobs. My career started in retail. I was a retail manager. I was a store manager for years and years. and then transitioned into education. And my education pathway has always been kind of non-traditional. I taught adult school and alternative high school and workforce, and taught at the welfare department and health and human services. So was always kind of supporting kind of the people on the fringe. It was never that regular elementary school person. So I was with the Tulare Joint Union High School District for 22 years. I ended my career as the assistant superintendent of student services, where I oversaw after school and career technical education and alternative pathways and things like that. And so it gave me a really broad view of that education is more than math, reading, and English. And so, which was always my passion, and making sure that all students had the opportunity to be successful, regardless if they were a 4.0 student or not, and having those additional opportunities. As I said, I was at the adult school for 10 years as the principal. And so it was the world of second chances. And it was always my goal that someone have their second chance if they need it. And so, as I said, I spent 22 years there. I decided I was going to retire. And so I was going to retire and do something part-time, do something where I could, enjoy my husband, my kids, my grandkids. And so I actually reached out to ProYouth and said, what can I do? Where do you need me? And so it was decided that I would help our high school program, which was EXL, which is where my passion was. I came from a high school district, knew those students, knew that system well. And so retired from the district and came and started working part-time. And right before school started, the CEO resigned to be with her kids. And so my husband was back on the board, and they asked, do you think Marie would do it for interim for me for a while so that I can, we could get school started and things along those lines? And so I agreed to be the interim CEO, and I did that for 11 months. And then finally went to the board and said, I'm not leaving, so you have to decide if you want me or not. And so it's now been 5 years that I've been the CEO, and love every minute of my work. I love the work. As we were talking before we got on, a lot of times the bureaucracy and the things along those lines are what are our challenges. But anytime I feel a stress or I feel that I'm not making a difference, all I do is go to a school site and know that, and see the kids come running and want me to play with them and want me not to leave. And I see what we do in our pathways and what we do for serving a healthy meal and things along those lines, and know that we will open our 60th school site next year. That was my motto, 60 and 30. So 60 sites in 30 years. And, know that by the end of this year, we'll probably serve upwards of 20,000 students. We'll serve 1 million meals and be on 60 school sites with over 800 employees. And so knowing that we started with 3 schools and 220 kids, and now where we are now is I'm so proud of where I landed. I truly believe in destiny. I truly believe that this is where I was supposed to end up. That, I was supposed to retire and supposed to be here. And so, like I said, I love my work. I love my kids. I love my staff. And we know that we make a difference in the community. And that makes me very proud, and gives me pride and gives me awe every day. And so it's why I get up and still keep coming. And so
Perhaps maybe one of the busiest retirements I've heard of.
Yeah, I didn't do it well. Somebody asked how retirement was, and I said I didn't do it well.
Yeah.
And so
there's a second chance. You mentioned second chances. So at some point there'll be a second chance to do that. But
right. But it won't be now. It won't be now.
Well, you've had such a before we jump to you, Mike, Maria, you've had such a interesting vantage point in the system with the positions you've held and the leadership roles you've had within the quote school day, and now solidly now you're partnering with, I think you said earlier, 10 districts, which itself is what a vantage point. I mean, to see 10 different ways districts want to do this, and you have to sort all it out. But I mean, as a leader, what do you do to hold all those perspectives and that history that you have, and how does that help you navigate what you're doing now and this vision that you have in your retirement?
Yeah, and as I said before, we've been doing program for a long time, and so we have our, what our non-negotiables are and the quality of where programs should be, and a lot of it is just real communication and real partnerships with all of those districts, and everybody has the same intent. Everybody wants high quality programming for their kids. Everyone wants that. It's the how. And so for us, it's really coming to the agreement of what high quality really looks like, and who's going to do what. It's a lot of communication. Most of my districts I meet with weekly, and it's just to be able to go over the logistics of the pieces and things like that, simply because, as I said earlier, a lot of times it's the bureaucracy and the logistics and the adults that can really mire some of this up and get it clogged up. And so it's really making sure that the adults take care of adult problems, so that when we're on site, that it's seamless and it's a positive, safe, nurturing environment for all of those kids. And I think it's just really getting back to all of our intent is the same. We all want the same thing. We just have to kind of work through those systems and of who's going to do what, and what are our roles and what are our boundaries and our parameters to make sure that we can do that. So it's just a lot of coordination, a lot of collaboration, and a lot of communication.
Yeah, I wouldn't know much about bureaucracy, so it's interesting to hear you talk. So Mike, what I want to circle back to what Marie was just talking about a little bit later, but tell us about your journey and your arc and your path to be in this work.
I would say, well, I haven't retired yet, so I don't know where I'm going.
It's coming.
It's coming. A few more years. I think my arc has been maybe more traditional. I actually got into education. Don't tell anyone. Sort of by happenstance, I needed to pass an English class my senior year of college, and I had heard that English for educators was the easiest class to pass. Sign me up. And I get in there, and the teacher, who actually really found I came to respect and really appreciate, she said real clearly, if you are not going to be an educator, you need to get out of this classroom. And I was like, well, I need to pass this class, so I will just pretend I'm going to be an educator. And I ended up, through the reading, through the work, through her persistence, thinking, boy, being a teacher seems really interesting. And then ended up volunteering in kindergarten programs, worked as an instructional assistant, and then, substitute, student teacher, classroom teacher, kindergarten teacher, first grade teacher, through all of the grades, and really just found that being with young people and supporting my community and seeing the aha of a young child learning to read and learning how to count and skip and all those amazing things that you see from our youngest kids, that was what got me up every morning, and my dog also, but mostly the kids. And then growing into kind of stumbling again into this leadership opportunity where a colleague said, hey, you should apply to this, think about it. I applied, thought about it, I got the job. I got the job as a principal, and I led an elementary school here in Santa Fe for 6 years, 3.5 before COVID, and then 2.5 after COVID, led a virtual school along with an in-person school during the 2020-21 school year, which was just both amazing and completely exhausting, and ended up in the expanded learning role when ELOP really came into play. I had been thinking about different roles in the district and like, what else am I going to do to kind of expand my reach, but still work in my community? How do I make that impact, right? And my boss at the time reached out and said, there's this role, expanded learning. Think about it. And I thought about it. And I thought, that sounds really interesting. Like, how might we leverage the time we have after school, before school, in the summertime intersessions to make a bigger impact with students who might need the biggest impact, and sort of, took the role and jumped on the Fireside chats and watched the YouTube videos of the Fireside chats that I hadn't watched previously, and tried to learn as much as I could, and still am trying to learn as much as I can in this role today, and definitely find that now being on like the district side of partnerships, knowing how the role of a principal can make an impact on after school programs or summer programs. Having been that person, now talking with those folks and supporting those folks, but also supporting our CBOs and our partners, it's such an interesting perspective seeing how it all comes together for about 1,000 students every day after school. It's 8 sites within our TK-8 world, and yeah, it's awesome. The expanded learning community is, I had heard, like, the rumor was everyone's like very supportive and loving and positive, and I was like, that sounds great. Let's try that out. And it has been overwhelmingly positive, like so supportive, and people jumping through hoops or jumping, over whatever barriers to reach out to support when I just ask like the simplest of questions. And I get, 5 people on a Zoom 30 minutes later from CDE. Like, I never thought that was going to happen. And I truly appreciate the support, and like everyone just wants the best for our kids. They just want to make a difference for all of our kids. And it's so exciting to be a part of that.
So it's interesting, Mike, and Maria, but the last Fireside chat, we actually had people talking about expanded learning being the gateway for them to get into a career in education, the path moving towards credential. And I didn't realize that both of you actually took the reverse path. You were in education, leadership roles, just imagining both of you in those roles, and then your path into expanded learning. What I asked you the same thing I asked Marie, Mike, for your vantage point, now that you're in this work and the expanded learning opportunities program is allowing new expansions, new experiences, what have you thought about it from time to time that you've drawn upon your experiences as a principal and a principal in COVID that you've actually drawn upon to inform your leadership?
That's a good question. Nothing innovative and wild. Honestly, it's relationships, and it's being really clear and being honest and reaching out to our partners and the people that work the sites. I would love to say it was some like wild new method, but it's not. It's building relationships. It's nurturing those relationships, whether it's with the CBO, like Bay Area Community Resources, YMCA, our City of San Rafael program. It's communicating, like Maria had said, like we talk all the time because we want to make sure we're on the same page. And it was the same thing as a principal, right? I think I asked a parent once, like, I put out the survey, but no one's responding. She's like, 11 times. We need to see it 11 times, Mike, before we actually get it. And that's pretty good advice, actually. But it's that repetition of, I'm here for you, I'm here to support you. And then folks are also here to support me as well. And it's that reciprocal care, compassion that builds a relationship where we can trust each other, and make sure that everyone's on the same page. Again, to make an impact for kids, make a positive impact for kids, whether it's school day, after school. I think it just keeps boiling down to how do we treat each other in that relationship? What does it mean to be in a partnership, and how do you act as a good partner in that connection?
One of my mentors and dear colleague of both Heather and myself in a meeting just the other day, and he said, the more out of relationship you are with people, the more you rely upon the rule. You rely upon the rules to navigate things. But the deeper you are in relationship, you rely upon the relationship more than. That's what I thought about when you were just speaking. So before we started recording the chat, I was a couple minutes late getting on the Zoom and popped in, and here was Mike and Marie talking a mile a minute. And I thought, okay, did I miss the start of the fireside chat? What's going on? But I was really compelled by what you were talking about, and I felt what you were talking about and the way you were talking about it was so emblematic of who you are as leaders and the values that you hold as leaders. And Maria, you touched upon it, but it was, Mike, I think you might have said it. It's, or one of you, adults, the kids shouldn't be aware of the adults' problems or what's going on in the back end, but jump back into that. I'd love to see you two mash it up a bit.
Let's do it, Marie.
Let's go.
I think we were talking about if the adults can just solve the adult problems,
right?
And behind the scenes, or like the duck's feet under the water, right? Or just making a big old mess, but at the top, everything looks real smooth. Like the top of the water should just be like the programs running every day. They have what they need. They didn't know that it took 5 meetings and 100 emails to get the food there, or to get the contract finished for whatever.
Right.
All they need to know is that the person's there, the food's there, the lights are on, and everything's cool, right? Everything's great, and the kids are just having a great time because the adults behind the scenes were able to manage or collaborate on or figure out how to duct tape the thing together to make sure that the kids just had a great day. They did. All they know is it's Wednesday, beautiful day.
Right. And I think our conversation was about, we know how to do that. I mean, in expanded learning. I mean, we're great at duct taping it together and get it down, and it's great for the kids. But I think it's going back to the amazing opportunity that ELOP gives us, in the fact that we can take every kid, we can offer enrichment and tutoring and things along those lines, right, that we didn't before. But along with that comes, how do you build that capacity to grow that quickly? And so for us, it was, like Mike said, it's your paddling, and we focused so much on supporting the sites, additional staff, additional behavior therapists, additional assistants, program, what we call a program leader too, and so many things to uplift the site so that it was great for kids and an amazing experience. But the unintended consequence for that is that HR is slammed, accounting is slammed, compliance is overwhelmed. And so as a leader, how do you make sure that the capacity to be able to grow that fast and to support 60 sites is there? And so for me, it's really ensuring, and this is the conversation that we're having now, year 3 or 2 and 3, is how do we ensure that the capacity at the administrative level is there so that the site can do that great work for those kids? The intent is still the same, that it's great programming and a safe, nurturing, fun place for the kids to be. But there is that back end work to make that happen. They just don't show up, and it's all, meals just don't show up by themselves. And so it's one of those things that we've had to kind of ensure that, okay, site is good. Now, what do we need to do here to be sure that this continues to be good and get better?
Right. Yeah. Right. Because it's not just like it'd be awesome if it was just, let's get the sites dialed in, everything's great, everyone's got what they need there. But right, it is like I was joking with somebody that they like, keep your receipts, right? That's like the motto. Just hang on to your receipts, hang on to what's going on. I know what you're doing at the site's great. Just pass it all to me. Let me just take it, file it all away so that we just keep track of what we're doing, how we're doing. It's that administrative backend stuff. Because we went from, I mean, like I laughed earlier because you're at 60 sites. We have 8. And I'm like, oh, I'm so overwhelmed. 8 sites, 1,000 kids. And still a lot because we went from like 450 back in the ACES days to 600 to 700, and then I came in and it was 800, and now it's 1,000. And that's a lot of, like you said, that's a lot of paperwork. And thank goodness we have partners who support with hiring, and then they have support who do other work, like we're doing the compliance work. So it's this, again, it's like without a relationship, without me calling Anita all the time or Bethel all the time or Kelly all the time,
Right.
like those things aren't happening because there's just not the capacity to do it, because we've got 1,000 kids, which is amazing. Like when I was a principal at my site, for example, we had like 65 kids in our program, right? Today there's 127, maybe 130 kids today. Probably 130 because it's Wednesday. It's a really out day. But that's a huge expansion in the course of 3 years. And with that comes a lot of stuff, a lot of management, a lot of leadership, and making sure that everyone feels supported, has what they need, that we can bulldoze out of the way whatever obstacles are there, and make sure the food gets there and the lights get changed because of daylight savings.
Right. Well, and the site coordinators feel supported and things like that. Like you said, you go from ACES days where they had 96, 100 kids, and now they have 300 kids. And it's early release day, and they come at 1:30 instead of coming at 3 o'clock. And so how do we make sure the right people are in the right places and that they have what they need? Because then that supports them to be able to do the good work for our kids. It all trickles down. And so as mundane as it may seem, like you said, to keep your receipts and do your paperwork and doing a daily attendance card and be sure that it's all right and things like that, the end result is still a safe, quality place for the kids. And so I think if we can always understand that that's still our North Star, it has to be.
Yeah. And
we just have to be able to, continue to one, build that quality. It's a CQI piece. For me, CQI is an equity issue, because I believe every child deserves the best quality program they can have. And so when we talk about continuous quality improvement, it's because that's what the kids deserve, not because it's what we're supposed to do. And so it's looking at that on a regular basis. How do we make it better? How do we make it, because that's what the kids deserve, regardless of where they're at in a big high achieving school or my little school that has 200 kids and 45 kids in program. And so because we have those big swings, for us, it's how do we make sure every program is amazing, not just the big ones with a lot of money. It's the little ones that are real rural and have 200 kids and 60 kids in program. They still deserve the best quality program that they can get. And so, but that comes back to Mike and I in these positions of making sure that all of that still trickles out to them.
I want to add one thing also, like, and Marie, what you're hitting on is amazing. Like, to think you have a program with 60 kids and then like 300 kids, like that's the scale. We always joke like, one more staff member, 20 kids. Like, so like that scale is huge, right? Going back to like the lessons of leadership, and it sounds like what you're saying is really makes me think of this. Like, it's relationships, yes. It's also listening. And it's like, you can hear somebody talk, but it's really listening to what they're saying, what they're not saying. And when you're talking to a school with 60 kids in a program, I can only imagine that they're saying certain things and you're picking up on it. But then you get to take your experience, both as an assistant soup, as a principal, as now a CEO, a retired CEO, right? And like help them build a program, because not everyone knows how after school works or what's out there or what's possible. But listening to that adult first often, but then like finding a way to listen to those kids. What do you want to do? What do you want to do with your time? This is your 3 hours.
Right.
What would you like to see? What goals do you have? And then scaling that out to 300 kids at different programs.
Right.
I feel like that's like, if I could go back in time and be a principal again for the first time, I would do so much more listening to kids. And I feel like I actually get to do that now in this role. I'm kind of like doing it over again. Just really, what do you want to do? What sounds interesting to you?
Yeah, student voice and choice is huge, especially once you get into, because we go all the way to 12th grade. And so I have middle schoolers and I have high schoolers. And we always say those kids vote with their feet. If they don't like it, they leave. And so you better be sure that what you're doing, and we ask them, what can we do that's going to make you stay after school? That's going to keep you after school. And, you know, trying to figure out that secret sauce for middle school and high school, because it's a hard population. And you really have to listen to them because they will tell you. And it's really respecting them as, you know, almost as your partner in this. Tell me what you want. Tell me what you need. And how can we be of service to you? And what we found, I mean, offer classes that they like and have it taught by people that they love. You know, you get their favorite teacher and you have them teach a class that they want to go to, you're golden.
Done.
I mean, you know, they're going to come. And so even if it's something weird like hip hop, Dungeons and Dragons, esports, weightlifting. I mean, some of the things that we do, some of the things we do at middle school and high school, you know, the traditional one would go, you're doing what? But you know what? The kids love it. And the teachers love to teach it. And so it is, you know, a student voice and choice and staff voice and choice really can give you a lot of good information about being able to make these decisions on what's best for kids. I don't have all the answers. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, and I do have, you know, perspective from, you know, working with CDE and working with the different districts and things like that. But every school site's different, and every kid's different. And so a lot of times it's just asking, what do you need? What do you need? And I mean, I always tell my staff, if it's legal, we're going to do it. But, you know, sometimes we run along that edge, but if it's legal, we're going to offer it for kids. If it's best for kids, that's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop right there because that line is the best line, and I hate to interrupt this conversation because if I didn't know any better, you two, like, I would assume you two know each other super well, and this is just a reunion, but I actually know that you all really just met. So I really appreciate this, like, back and forth conversation that you're having, and that last line of, you know, what's really best for our kids. And I think been in plenty of spaces and meetings where we do let the adult stuff get in the way of what's best for the kids. And so appreciate both of you and the leadership lessons that you've shared that allow you to put the kids first. That's part of the reason, whether you've been doing this for a really long time or short amount of time, it doesn't really matter. That type of leadership is what elevates you into these roles and elevates you into this recognition. And so one, I would like to say thank you, because I think in the course of this conversation, you covered pretty much all of the 12 quality standards, right? Of like what it means to actually offer a high quality program for a student. So it's a great promo for that. But mostly I want to say thank you for the leadership that you both offer to not just your students, but to your families and your communities and your staff. And so this is a very, very well-deserved recognition, and we really appreciate the work that you did that got you selected as leaders. And so with that, Michael, I just want to turn it over to you to see if you have some closing comments before we end. Don't forget to unmute.
Had some noise in the background. Thank you, Mike and Maria. Heather, why don't we just leave the Zoom on after we stop the chat, and they can keep talking the rest of the day.
We're gonna solve all of the problems, all of the bureaucracy. Mike and I'll just take care of it.
Yeah, I'll call you later. We'll figure it out. We'll
figure it
text
all out.
to both of you, Heather and Michael.
Right.
Great.
We'll let you know, Michael.
Well, I just echo what Heather said, and you've demonstrated what it means to be deeply relationship centered. And to be relationship centered, to have the perspective that this is what our children deserve, to have the perspective that deep listening is a critical feature of strong leadership. It's all leading with love. And thank you for doing that. Congratulations on being recognized. And we'll look forward to staying in touch and seeing what the next retirement brings, Maria, and seeing when you get to 60 schools, Mike.
Yeah, we'll see you in 60 schools.
Okay. All right. Let's do it.
Right.
Let's do it.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Until
you.
next time.